the more voices you allow in, the less your voice can be heard. The less your voice can grow into what it should be.
Yes.
The less your voice can be authentic. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Renew Podcast. I am your host, Kristen Andre. With me, as always, is my marvelous co-host.
I just realized I don't know why my mic is on this side.
I don't know why either it is, but that's okay. As long as we can hear you, we're good.
Move it.
You can move it. All right, well, welcome, everyone. We have another fun topic for you today. We are talking about too many voices. Are there too many voices, too many opinions, too many things that you're paying attention to? Because I feel like for most of us, we have a lot of people in our ear. I have enough voices of my own in my own head.
We should.
That I feel like all these extra ones. But this is really what we're talking about is all of the input that we get, the social media, the self-help books, friends, family, significant others, children, everything in our head. Sometimes it just feels like we're getting input from a lot of different places.
Even when we don't want it.
Most of the time we don't, right? So, I mean, how do you ever feel like that it's like information overload coming your way when it's on different topics?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
So when I grew up back in the 70s, before you were even a twinkle in your parents' eye, as they would say, we didn't have all the input. I think we still had voices, but they weren't so readily available. Like we weren't able to constantly get in touch with people, and we didn't have, cell phones. We didn't have social media, any of those things. And now I feel like we're barraged with information nonstop.
No, agree. It is amplified and multiplied. And I mean, there's just constantly something coming at us. I mean, again, I even think about like when you're on social media or your laptop and you've got like those little notifications that keep popping up in that right-hand corner. I mean, there's just something.
Turn those things off. You can turn those off, right?
Yeah, I probably should.
You probably should. Well, I mean, think about like even on the phone, like we'll have things pop up on the phone and I silence some, I keep some on there, and I have I did learn on the phone you can turn on your favorites and you can knock out everything out. So the only things that'll pop up are the ones from like the people you've favorited, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
I do that in like
nice.
the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Like I only you can't text me after midnight unless you're on my favorite list.
I do. Yes, I do have that set up, and like emergency purposes. So like if you call me at 3 a.m., it ain't ringing unless you're like parent or
well, that's true.
Something.
All right, so with that though, let's think about it. Why is it we listen to everything? Because all right, before let me back up a little bit.
Yes.
Before we get to that, what made us start to seek input from everybody else? Or do you think we're not necessarily seeking it, but people are giving it?
I think it's a mix.
Okay.
Because we as people continue to grow and learn and discover new things.
Right.
Which is where you would think of all the self-help books, you're like, don't we know everything that there is to know? But like, no, there's always a new method, a new way of doing something. We discover a new way that our brain works.
Right.
Which is kind of where my mind started to go when we were talking about this topic. Is there's certain things that I feel like as people we seek out because we want to get better in a certain way.
Okay.
Then there are individuals based on what we have seen them go through in life that we would seek their opinion if we encounter that same situation in life.
All right, so let's stick, because those are two different things.
Okay,
So let's stay on this. So the self-help thing, because I am a professional. I can't even. I'm a professional. I'm a personal and professional development junkie. I love all things development. I love self-help books. I love nonfiction. I love reading all the things, right? But I feel like so often it's either trendy.
Yes.
Or it's something that we're looking for a quick fix.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of times, and I determined this during way before, but it was solidified for me during the crazy pandemic and craziness we've had the last few years. You can find support to whatever argument you have about anything. So I feel like with a lot of self-help, we're looking for either support of what we think we already know, which is why we seek so many opinions, because we'll seek them until we get the answer we want.
Yep.
Or we're looking for a quick fix.
Yep.
So I think, with self-help, we'll see the things that are trendy, but they may
Yes.
not necessarily make lasting impact on somebody.
Yes.
So we go to find the next thing. And we go to find the next thing. And
Yes.
and I feel like too often people are looking for a quick fix.
Yes.
Or the answer they're looking for. Like we just want these remedies like, instead of doing the hard work and going to the gym. And I mean, we talk about working out a lot on here. I've got some friends that are friggin' ripped, right? They work their butts off. I can't expect to have the results they have because I don't put in the work they put in.
Yeah,
Same thing with
yeah.
self-help. You can't expect to read a book and miraculously
Yeah.
be better.
No, it becomes an addiction of the next thing, to your point.
Yeah.
I also wonder how much that perpetuates this constant, I'm not good enough as well. Like, how much change can you force yourself to take on in a year?
And I don't even know that it's change. I think that not good enough I think that makes people stagnant. And this is where,
Yeah.
like, we're talking about too many voices. Part of the challenge with having too many voices in your head is you don't know who to listen to.
100%.
And that's really what I want to make sure we have some time to discuss is who do I listen to?
Yeah.
Is because if we're reading all the books and listening to all the experts, and there is a guru, I hate the word guru, but there is a guru for everything out there, right? And there's some of us that know things about a little, some of us that know things about a lot, some of us that don't know anything. But you can always find people that are willing to give input. But I always ask people, who are you taking it from?
Yep.
Get input from the people that know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Y'all don't come to me for exercise advice. I'll help you grow a business, but I'm not going to write your workout plan. Probably could, but may
Yeah.
not want to listen to it.
Yeah.
But I think we seek out so much. We have so many people just feeling like, I need to tell them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
My kids tell me what to do. My kids tell me what to do about parenting. I mean, we've done a parenting episode on here before
Yeah.
with one of my daughters.
Yeah.
We're going to revisit that
Yeah.
because we got new things. But I get advice from my kids.
Yeah, that's why I don't have any.
I know. I keep trying to give you a few and you won't take them. But think about it. Like, I've literally had my kids tell me, we know what it's like to be a parent. No, the frick you don't know what it's like to be. You've never actually birthed a child. You've
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
raised a child. So while they may have
Yeah.
valid input into what I should be doing or should not be doing parenting, I get that.
Yeah.
They don't know what it's like. They haven't actually done it. They can still give advice, but we have to be mindful of which advice we're taking.
Right.
If my kids are telling me we should not be punished, for this heinous thing we've done, probably shouldn't take that advice.
Yeah,
But with
yeah.
most things in life, it may not be that clear as to when we should listen and when we shouldn't.
Oh, 100%.
So how do you, when you have all the voices coming out, how do you determine who do you listen to?
Something I have tried to become very self-aware about myself this year is, one, I say this year, okay, it started last year, we're only in February, but when I hear a thing, it is best for me not to make an immediate decision based on what I've just heard.
When you say a thing, do you mean when somebody's giving you an opinion or
If
you've
I-
got the voices coming
If
at
I
you?
read something,
Okay.
if someone gives me advice,
Okay.
even if it's a thought I have, I try to back up and examine where it's coming from.
Oh, hold that thought for a minute, Miss
Yes.
Mendoza, because what that sounds like to me would be a little
A smart
term-
individual.
Yeah, it's a little term we call critical thinking,
Yay!
which seems to have gone by the wayside with some of you fools out here
Yes.
because we've lost the ability to do that. We hear, and that's
Yes.
where I think too many voices gets us a little wackadoodle.
Yep.
Is because we hear all the input, we hear all the things, and instead of making a rational decision, instead of, like you said, pausing,
Yes.
thinking critically, doing your own research, trying to figure out where something or someone is coming from, we jump to action
Yeah.
or we jump to a conclusion.
Right.
And that, if we don't have critical thinking, we don't have the opportunity to ascertain whether or not something makes sense.
Exactly. And it may even be from the standpoint of their advice isn't necessarily wrong. It's just not right for me or
Right.
my situation.
Right,
And
for
that's
sure.
where if I get caught up in that moment and in the emotion of it and I make a decision based off that, 9 times out of 10, it's the wrong decision.
It usually is. And so many times we just immediately act. So part of this, we've talked a little bit about hustle culture. We're going to talk about it a lot more this season. I think so much of that is we're moving so fast that we're like, take the input, go. And we're not really taking time to actually absorb the voices, absorb the input. So not only is it we're getting too much, we're getting from the wrong people, it's just a lot of stuff out there.
Right.
So what have you, like you said, you're trying to take a minute and pause.
Yes.
Has that helped?
Oh, 100%.
Is it harder than you thought it would be?
Yes.
Why?
Partly because I'm impatient.
Right.
I want to, because if I am seeking advice, it's because I want to fix a thing, right?
Okay.
Want to fix a situation, make something better, or there's a decision I need to make, things like that. Or maybe I'm doing something that's not working, and so I want to make it better, but we just want, that's why we struggle with, to your point, going to the gym, right? I want that immediate result.
Immediate gratification. I think that's part of what does this is we instead of sorting through what's going to be the best thing, the best course of action, the best whatever, we're sitting there going, what's going to work the best, the quickest right now?
Yep.
As opposed to really trying to weigh all the things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is the reverse. Sometimes the decision we need to make isn't going to feel really good right now.
Yeah.
But in the reverse, a couple of months down the road,
You're back to the gym example, aren't you?
Well, just
throwing it out there. I know. No, but that's true. So let's talk about the different. Let's back up a little bit. Talk about the different types of voices, because I think, and I don't mean the voice. It could be the voices in your head. I had a lot of voices in my head this morning. I tell you what. I woke up this morning. I don't think I told you this. I may have told you this when I texted you this morning coming in. I woke up at 3:33 a.m. Right? A.m. As in A.M. 3:33.
Isn't there
Which
like a
there is a
magic
meeting.
thing
I
with
Googled
okay,
it
I was
because
say.
I couldn't
Yep.
go back to sleep. So y'all are getting jacked up, Kristen. I am on my second full cup of ambition this morning.
I'm having a lot of fun.
And I'm a little hyped up on some caffeine. However, all right, so I woke up
Okay.
at 3:33, which is the angel number. I Googled it because I couldn't go
Okay.
back to
Yeah,
sleep.
yeah, yeah.
Normally, I wake up a lot. I don't sleep well. I wake up a lot, and when I wake up, I can always get back to sleep. Last night, I could not get back to sleep at all. So by about 4, I'm like, I wonder if there's a meaning to 3:33. I think there is, so I Google it. And it does say that I'm going to have a change of luck in career, ambition, all this type of stuff. I'm like, fantastic, because if I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night, that's probably a good reason.
Yeah, yeah.
But the reason I say that and the reason I bring up my 3:33 brutal wake-up call was that it was all the things in my head. And that's why I can't. So for those of you guys that are overthinkers, that's why I can't sleep. It's because I just had all these thoughts. And they weren't bad thoughts. They weren't. It's just all the input. The input what I've been working on the business, what clients are telling me, what my coach is telling me, different thinking about today and the episodes that we're doing today and all the thoughts. There's just so much. And there were so many voices. A lot of them were mine. But it's trying to sort out all that. And I don't know if that's why I didn't sleep. I'm going to choose to believe the reason I woke up and didn't go back is because of all the 333, the good luck coming my way. But there's so frequently we've got just a lot of stuff in our heads. And I think we have an opportunity to figure out where am I taking the input from. People are going to give you input. They're going to give you opinions. They're going to do all these things. But we get to choose which ones we listen to. And so let's talk about that for a minute. So if we're getting input from social media, from books, from self-help stuff, from gurus, from friends, family, clients, everything, how would you know, like what do you do? How do you decipher I know what I do to filter. How do you filter the input you take and what you let slide?
Anyone that I'm going to ask their opinion about a certain situation is because I, number one, trust them. And I've had them, of course, in my life for a certain length of time, which also means that they know me.
Yeah.
And can give comments and advice based on, what they know about me.
I think that's a big thing because I don't know, this happens a lot to me. People will give me advice and give me things and they know nothing about me or my situation. I'm like, why?
Right.
Well, first of all, why do you think you can do that to people that you don't actually know? But people do it all the time.
100%.
Yeah.
Right. Which is where, like, to me, the social media comes into of that's not my first place to go to find
Well, and I think
answer.
let's stay on social media for 1 second, because I feel like that's a lot, and that's a lot of where we change course of action. If you aren't secure enough in who you are and yourself and your self-worth, a lot of people shift their thoughts, actions, beliefs, everything based on what people that don't know them say on social media.
Right.
And I saw a post yesterday, one of my girlfriends who's been on the show, Laura, very active on social media. She's on vacation, and she posted a picture. And it was she was in a bikini. She's literally on a cruise. She was in a bikini, posted a picture, and talked about the background and the picture and everything like that. And somebody commented, and she responded to him, but somebody commented and it's like, you shouldn't be doing, a woman of your age. I was like, oh, no, you didn't. But a woman of your age shouldn't be posting a bathing suit picture. Now, she's on vacation with her husband and children. This was not an inappropriate, but there was nothing wrong with the picture other than a woman of her age posted, heaven forbid, goodness gracious. I immediately commented like, you look gorgeous, because she did. She looked great.
Yeah.
And even if she looked terrible, which she never could, why did that person feel they needed to be a voice to that? Why was it? Let her post, you know? And I don't think, I know her well, so I didn't recognize the name that post. My guess is it's not somebody that knew her. But I think the first step is we've got to stop listening to voices that don't know us, that don't know our thoughts, our actions, our heart, anything like that.
Right.
So many people feel like they've got, first of all, the ones of y'all that are commenting things like this on people you don't know, y'all need to stop.
Yep.
That's the first step. But the second step is, for those of you guys listening, don't let that be one of the voices that you absorb, that you take in.
Right. Well, and the algorithm plays to what you allow it to play it to, right?
Oh, for sure.
So what you're watching and engaging with, I've even noticed, especially on TikTok.
I don't go on TikTok. I've said that before. I know y'all are big. I am not a TikTok person. I don't like it. It's just not my thing.
I am very cautious of anyone on there that's like, I received a word, or I received a vision, or
I get DMs from people that received a vision. I'm like,
I'm like,
delete.
no. Most of the time, those things are very specific to a person.
Yeah.
It's very rare that something of that magnitude is going to be for a large population.
Yeah.
And so you do have to be, even if it was a quote positive message, you do have to be very careful of what you play into.
You do, but you have to listen to that. It's all of it. But I think the people, the social media, even with social media, I only listen to the people that I know. And if it's the good stuff, y'all can put all the good stuff all day long. But I've had people, there's a couple people that follow me that will post comments that are like, oh, well, why do you need to post your picture? Or why do you need, I'm like, I don't know, because I like to post my picture. It doesn't matter, and people feel like they can tear other people down with it. I'm a sticks and stones person. Like, the words are not going to bother me if I don't know the person.
Yeah.
If somebody that knows me, knows my feelings, my heart, my intention behind things, then yes, for sure I'll listen to that. But I think that's the biggest thing, whether it's social media or in person. I would really encourage everybody listening is, if the people don't know you, quit putting so much stake in the words.
Yeah.
In the voices.
Absolutely. Our dear friend Ashley Huggins just commented. She said, people's opinion of you is none of your business.
It's none of your business. Actually, I agree. It's totally true.
True.
And unless y'all want to have a good opinion, then that'll be my business. But I think you get to choose who you listen to. And I appreciate, with the story I was telling about my friend Laura, she responded back and said, okay, great. Thanks for your input. Blocked. That was her choices. She was not going to absorb that. She's not going to let that bother her. I just think, first of all, if you can't be nice, don't say anything, especially to people you don't know. But, for social media, it's really easy, I think, just to cut out the negativity. My algorithm, I don't see a lot of the negative because, like you said, the algorithm favors what you engage with, what you hover over, what you watch. So my feed tends to be a little bit more positive because that's what I pay attention to. That's what I'm choosing to feed myself. But the voices extend well beyond social media. So let's talk a little bit about friends and family outside of social media.
Yes.
Sometimes they comment on social media too. But we won't name names in this episode unless you just want to name names in this episode. But let's think about friends and family
to protect the
guilty. let's think about friends and family.
Okay.
I feel like I know throughout my life I have had people in my family that I go to for advice. They are my
Yes.
go-to people, and they
Yep.
are the ones that's whose opinion, because I know they're going to tell me what I need to hear.
Yes.
I have friends and family who tell me what I want to hear,
Yes.
and I have friends and family who painfully will tell me what I need to hear.
Yes.
So how do you embrace that? And how do you tune out the ones that are going to tell you what they think no matter what? Because I don't think we always listen to friends and family.
Yeah, I agree.
And some people listen too much.
Well, 100%. And that is because, again, back to you're making it your business to be concerned about what they think and, what's going to be said at the Thanksgiving dinner table and things
Yeah.
like that. But I think what you have to realize is if you don't reach the point in life where you can hear what someone is saying but not necessarily absorb it,
Yep.
you get to be further on in age and you've lived your life for everybody else.
Ooh.
And
Yeah.
you don't have anything that is truly yours.
Well, that's true, because I think, and this is why I wanted to talk, and we wanted to talk about too many voices, is because the more voices you allow in, the less your voice can be
Yes.
heard. The less your voice can grow into what it should be.
Yes.
The less your voice can be authentic. And we listen to so many. I mean, I think back to just all these times throughout my life. So I love the career that I have and what I get to do and how I help people. And I truly think this is where God put me. And at the same time, I think back to voices as I was growing up that completely changed the trajectory. I can without question think back to a couple specific moments that changed exactly the course of my life. I wanted originally, my background, for a lot of you guys know, before I went in finance, was in sports and orthopedics, like physical therapy, orthopedics. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon.
I didn't know that.
The whole time when I was in my whole teen year, well, when I was in 5th grade, I wanted to be a truck driver because somebody down the street had a big old truck and it was really cool. But after I outgrew that, I went through that. I went through the clothing store. I think it was situational. There was a truck, and then I liked shopping, and my grandma was in retail. But most of my high school and early college, actually high school and all of college career, or most of college, I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. I had a propensity to get hurt a lot. I was always fascinated by, not the injury during the time, but like I had knee surgery and I dislocated my knee and I did all this stuff, and I always was fascinated by that. And I distinctly remember we had a surgeon that lived down the street from us in our neighborhood, such a cutie, which all the girls had a crush on. But anyway, I was always fascinated by his job. And I remember I was about 17, and I graduated high school at 17. So it was my senior year.
Yeah.
And I was talking about orthopedic surgery and how I liked it and how I was intrigued by it. And in passing, I remember, and this is what, 40-something years ago? In passing, I remember him saying, man, I don't know if I had to do it all over again, I don't know if I'd do it. It's a rough road. And
Wow.
I know. And here I am in my 50s, and I remember that conversation.
Yeah.
So little things like that, it changed the trajectory. I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Right,
But
right,
you think
right.
back and you look at, and this wasn't anybody I was overly close with, but at 17, I don't think I really thought about it enough to do my own research, to think in, to figure out, well, where's that coming from and what does that mean? And I feel like if we listen to, not that he was the wrong person, he's had a great career, and I actually think probably was good I didn't go into that. Just, I don't know why. I like it. I still like it. I still love, I hate it to say that, but I like when people get injured because I'm like, let me look at this. It's kind of cool. Like I still am intrigued by it.
The body is fascinating.
The body's fascinating. I'm still
Yeah.
intrigued by it, but I don't know that it would have been a great career. So I think it all ended up where, but the reason I bring that up is I feel like there's moments in time where we listen to things that we should. Maybe I should have listened to that. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. Right? But we take all this input and this advice and we throw it all in the brain and we've got all the thoughts. And we don't necessarily take time to discern it. I know at 17 I didn't. I think most of us at 17 don't know what the heck we're doing.
Right. Which is the importance of, to your point, naming off kind of all the thoughts of like what you wanted to be. If you would have had the ability in that moment to just instantly make that decision and go out and buy a big old 18-wheeler.
Right. How cool would that be?
Except a couple of trips and stops at Buc-ee's, and you would have been like, okay, on to the next thing.
They do have a jerky wall at Buc-ee's. But no, but it's true. Like you think about it, but not just career-wise, everything. Relationships.
Yes. Yeah.
Having kids or not having kids.
Yeah.
How you raise your kids. All of those things. Like when I think back about the major things in my life, getting married, having kids and all that, I'm sitting here, we were talking about this topic. I'm like, how much of it did I do the way I wanted to do, or how much did I do because the people, all the voices were like, you need to do this, you should do this, and I still get that. People tell me what I should do. They should all over yourselves sometimes. I mean, they tell you what you should do. Most people will tell you that.
Yep.
But what I want to encourage people is make sure what you're allowing lines up with who you are. Because I think a lot of times, especially when we're younger, and this is advice to the youngsters listening, Miss Mendoza, since you're ripe old age. No, I think part of it is really figuring out who you are as a person. And I've said that a bunch of times on the show. I don't think I knew that until my mid-40s. I don't think I had stopped listening to the voices enough, to the outside people that maybe didn't align with me or who I was. I don't think I really came into my own until probably my 40s. And I hope people can do it sooner.
Well, because the road to self-awareness is paved with our wrong decisions, right?
And with other people's opinions.
Yes, 100%.
I mean, that's what we're talking about with this whole thing is the too many voices.
And a lot of times, again, you make that decision because while the source that you learned it from or heard it from might have not have been bad, but it wasn't right for you, but you kind of got, it's a compounding effect.
Yeah.
Because it's another voice that adds on to your voice, and they can get lost and meshed, and until you go through that phase, it can be hard to hear your own.
So let's talk about how to select the right voices, because we've talked about like the input and how it messes us up sometimes, because I do think we need other people's opinion. Y'all, left to my own devices, Lord knows, right? I need input, but I put in in the bio or the summary when I was talking about this, we've got social media, self-help, friends, family. We've got coaches. We've got professional. I mean, I'm a coach. Yep. That is what I do for my job.
Yep.
And I think you need to seek out coaches, whether for your business, whatever. I have a coach. Lisa, who's been on the podcast and is coming back again this season. I'm excited. She is my life coach, if you will, and she directs me and challenges me and pushes me. And it's not always. I met with her earlier this week. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. Like a lot of times we're going deep. Like we were in some heavy stuff this week, but it's because she knows me, she gets me, she understands, and she challenges me appropriately when I need to deal with things or address things. And that's what a good coach, coworker, colleague, professional, mentor, that's where I think we've got to figure out where we need those people in our lives. And sometimes it's, I've had business coaches that I've worked with in the past. I've had life coaches. I've had therapists and psychologists. I've had mentors. But I think if we can really start to think about where we need people and where we need input and voices and select those voices strategically.
Yep.
Because you may need it in business, but not in life.
Right.
Or you may be great at business and need help with parenting. So I think one of the things to think in mind when we're thinking of the too many voices, it's okay to have a lot of different voices, but listen to the voice in their area of expertise.
Right. Agreed.
Like I joke, I'm not going to be helping you at the gym, but I'll help you with your business. Probably not calling me for parenting, but I can help you with your schedule. So things like that is figuring out where you can selectively find and engage the voice that you need to hear.
Yeah. And I think part of that too is realizing how you came to the decision that you even needed a coach, for an example.
I think it's just not knowing you're not where you want to be or know where you can't be.
Well, and if you have that awareness, that will guide what kind of coach you get. Sometimes, again, I think we see, it's almost like I don't know if this is, I'm going to call it a syndrome. It's the Steve Jobs syndrome, where we didn't know we needed, strong word, needed a cell phone.
Yep.
Steve Jobs told us we needed a cell phone.
I don't think we need a cell phone because I think this part of why we have too many
should chunk
voices
it.
because the darn
It's
cell
true.
phone.
But like, do you need a coach or a resource in a certain area because that's the pocket that you need to work on in life?
Mm-hmm.
Or because everybody else has one, you want one too? Or because you saw something pop up online, you were like, ooh, I need that.
Yeah.
Because if you're not in that spot to be able to discern what you're hearing, that's when the voices take over.
It is when the voice, and I think, like you said, it's knowing yourself. So when I work with somebody personally and professionally, we're looking at a lot of different areas. They've got their business, they've got their relationships, they've got, their faith, they've got the community involved. There's finances, there's tons of areas. I'm an expert in some, not all, but that's where if you find the right voices, and honestly, the people that are out there that do this professionally, or like counselors, therapists, coaches, whatever, they'll help you find the right voice if you tell them. If you start asking the right questions. I've had people come to me and ask, about working with me, and I'll do a quick info call with them or intro call, and I'm like, I am not the person you need. I can really quickly discern if I can help somebody or not. But I think that's the thing with so many voices out there, we just aren't sure. Ask questions. Ask questions. Ask where your blind spots are, and try to find people that can help you there. Like the people I go to for parenting advice are very different than the people that I go to for business advice. I'm not naming names either, but
100%.
And the family members I confide in and go to are different for different things that I need.
Right.
So it's knowing what voices you need to hear, or what you need to hear voices about, I guess, and then going out and seeking out those people.
Right.
They're out there. I think they're out there, but the challenge we get into is when we follow the masses. You know that saying?
Yes.
The M is silent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So we need to just make sure we're limiting the number of voices.
And back to taking time and doing the research also to see if that person is a valid resource.
For sure.
For the area.
Yeah.
You need.
I mean, and I've said this on here before, and if I'm knocking anybody that's listening to this, I'm going to say I'm sorry, but I'm not, because here's the thing.
Sorry, not sorry.
Y'all got to stop hiring 20-year-old life coaches. I'm just going to say it. If you're 20 and there's a 20-year-old who is doing really well, that's fine. You have not been through enough life at 20 years old to be a life coach. And I saw somebody post that made me think of it, because I saw somebody actually say that the other day on going, okay, enough with it. But find the people that have walked the walk you want to walk, or that are in the place you want to do, for whatever area you need. You might hire a 20-year-old life coach to help you how to have more fun, or maybe how to, do social media or something like that. But there's experts in everything. I work with a lot of people that are younger. I mean, you guys are younger. Half my team over the years has been younger too. But just know what you're good at and what voices you need to seek out.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
That's such a good point.
Don't call the 20-year-old with no children about parenting. Right? Go to the parents that have done a good job. It would not be me, but go to those people.
Yeah. I love that. No, it's a great point.
So let's talk about a couple tangible ways as we wrap, a couple tangible ways that we can make sure we're not having too many voices. One of the things that I'm going to throw out there, and I'm really curious for you guys listening to chime in, one of the things I've been thinking about recently, I love social media. I use it a lot for business. I love engaging on it. But I've found that if I'm between client appointments, if I'm between, sitting, waiting at cheerleading for my daughter to get done, or at the doctor's office in the waiting room, I scroll. I scroll social media a lot, right? And I am fortunate, again, like I said, that my feed is pretty positive because I've curated it that way. But it's a waste of time, and it is too many voices. So one of the things I'm thinking about doing is taking the apps off my phone. Ew. I don't know if I can go that deep. So kind of my baby step towards that is moving them into a folder so they're not on my home screen. That was my other step. Then I'd at least have to have 2 clicks. That's kind of the baby step to getting there. But I think it's valid. I mean, I pull up social media. When I post, I do it from my laptop. So I don't do it as much from my phone, except for Instagram stories. But I'm thinking about that, because I feel like we have so many voices. Even if they're positive, there's still just so much chatter and so much stuff that I wonder what I could create, develop, think, improve if I didn't constantly have voices running through my head.
Right, yeah. I've kind of done the same. My bad habit is I would scroll at night. So almost like
Yes.
that separation between trying to work and wind down. What I've done is, I guess, essentially replaced it with one voice, because what I'm trying to do is, instead of picking up my phone to scroll, is reading. Because
Okay.
it's also bad for your eyes, right? Like you're actually
Oh,
not supposed to look at
3:33 I was scrolling. 3:34.
not supposed to look at a blue light right before you go to bed.
Yeah.
So not only does it help me accomplish the true goal of winding down, but it basically takes a million voices and puts it into one. Now that does mean I have to be very intentional about what I pick to read.
Yes.
But at least that's one decision versus you can scroll
barrage.
and see 5 voices with each flick of the finger.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a big first step. And I think for everybody listening, that's going to be, I'm going to challenge you guys on that, because I feel like it's something that we could try together and just see what comes up, because I feel like that's a good step. I think there's also other things we could do. The biggest, that's step one. That's one of the challenges I'm going to issue to you guys listening, is figuring out how to cut out some of the social media voices, because it will allow us, if we're not filling it. I do this in the car too, where I turn the music off. And Lisa, when I was working with her the other day, some of the things we were talking about, she's like, I just want you to sit with it. And you can't sit with an idea or a thought or a business,
Yes.
strategy or anything. You can't sit with it
Yes.
if there's not silence.
Yes.
And there can't be silence if there's a bunch of voices. So my biggest challenge is, whether it's social media, whether it's podcast, we want you to listen to this podcast, but whether it's something, take some time each week, each day. I mean, I'd say day, not week, to make sure you're sitting with all the information that you've gone through. And like you said, to your original point, then that gives you some time to determine, is this something that I need to really pay attention to and do or act on? Or is it just more noise?
That is so good.
Sit in the silence.
Wow. When
So
does
I'm
Lisa
in-
come back on again?
I'm going to do, when does what?
I said, when does Lisa come back
I
in?
know, right? But we will have her coming in to talk. She's going to come in and talk relationships this season. So it'll be that'll be a fun one. But no, she's always got great input. But it was one of the things that I enjoy silence, which is funny. It's as big of a personality as people assume that I am. I'm really not. Like, I like to sit in the quiet. I frequently will turn the music off in the car and just sit. And that's what I think helps me decipher all the voices and figure out what I want to listen to and what I don't.
That's so interesting, because I just of what you can do without. So, for example, I've got the streaming app that I usually listen to on my phone for music. It has something like, I don't know if my login has been janked. Anyway, I haven't been able to get it to load. And so in place of listening to music, I've actually been listening to podcasts during my drive. And I've noticed, I think I prefer that, because I'm like, during that time, again, I'm trying to be very selective with what I listen to, but I'm like, I actually feel like I'm learning something.
Right.
Instead of just singing Miley Cyrus's latest
I do
hit
like
over
Miley
and over again.
Cyrus,
I do
Meghan
too.
Trainor, all those things. But so my challenge to you would be, one of the days, turn it off completely. And
All the
not
way.
just absorb. Like, I want you to take time to process, because
Yeah.
the challenge with too many voices is we don't stop to let everything sink in and sit with it. So whether it's personal, professional, financial, whatever it is, my challenge to each of you guys is, let's turn off the voices, decrease the voices, diminish the voices just for a little bit. Because otherwise, the constant barrage is going to make it completely impossible for us to change
Yeah.
and to move forward. So we need some time in the silence.
I think that gives you that moment too to for the good things that you hear, actually absorb it and implement it. Because again, if you're listening to, even if it's all positive things, you can be like, oh, I'm going to try that in life. Oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. And then what ends up happening is
You
nothing.
bounce from thing to thing,
Yeah.
and you get
And
nothing
nothing
done.
works.
Yeah, you get nothing done.
And then you blame the author, and you're like, no, actually, you didn't give it a moment to actually take root.
Correct.
Isn't it like I feel like I just read an article. That
You can
it's
read
now
any article.
63.
It's different. I've heard 21. I've heard
That's
6. I've heard-
true.
You can find it to support however.
One of them I just read was 63
Exactly.
days.
So here's
to
the
start
thing.
a
My
new
challenge
cycle.
to everybody. My challenge to everybody is sit with it.
I just debunked the whole conversation.
Right? You didn't know. You just solidified the whole conversation.
Yeah.
So Whitney's had all the voices, but it's only going to
63
take
days,
hold.
14.
It's only going to take hold if you sit with it
Yeah.
and you take some action through whatever you process.
Yeah. See, I needed this.
I know. I like it.
It was
I like-
good.
So, challenge to each of you guys listening. Thank you, Miss Mendoza, for being here as always. I don't think you had
Glad to
choice,
be
but
here.
appreciate it.
No, glad
Do
to
appreciate
be
you.
here. Honored.
So here's what, because Whitney is one of the voices I listen to. Here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to sit with it, whatever it is. Take the voices and really be intentional about who you're listening to, what you're listening to, and what you're consuming. I want you to cut down consumption and sit with it for a minute to give yourself time to figure out, what do we really need to listen to? What do I really need to implement? And so you have some free time to let all the good stuff start to blossom. Because if we don't take the time, it's not going to go the way we think it will, and it's not going to get us there as quick as we hope it does. So thank you guys for being with us as always. Thank you, Miss Mendoza. And we will see you guys again next week on another episode of Renew.